How can you have too much of a good thing? Right? Welcoming sanctuary cities and counties and states are welcoming places, no caps, no stipulations, benefits
No deportation if you commit a crime. Yeah.
benefits available because immigration is a benefit. People can't be illegal. So come one, come all. And when one and all start coming, then they call crisis. I don't get it. It's almost like it's not an unqualified good, the lawlessness, the open borders policies.
Well, Valerie Rodriguez, she's lived in El Paso her whole life. She thinks the White House is not doing enough. She's a Democrat. And if you look at the video and images from El Paso, people are all over the streets.
I have lived here for over 38 years, and I've never seen anything like this in El Paso.
Claudia Rodriguez is a business owner in El Paso who does not think the White House has done enough to prepare for the lifting of Title 42.
We have people sleeping on our streets. This is unsustainable. It's not normal. Please help us, and enough with the politics of it.
Forget border towns. How about Chicago? You've seen the chatter online. You see the pictures of migrants sleeping in police stations.
Yeah, they're at O'Hare too, and at Midway.
They're setting up. One listener told us, his brother's an electrician. They're setting up Taylor Park, which is Bronzeville, I think, for migrants to live there. Also, another relative of another listener said, retired cop. The migrants have lice, chicken pox, bed bugs. They're having sex in the bathrooms and defecating in in garbage cans. Well, also I understand that they're pulling something else too. Chicago police response. You're talking about warmer weather this weekend and what that might mean. The city is pulling cap sergeants and teams to act as guard security for migrants. Thousands more coming. It's a crisis, waiting for federal government to provide resources. Why? We don't need resources for Sanctuary City. They're going to pull officers from watch as well, regardless of manpower. South Shore High School kicked out the academy personnel from there.
Yeah, they're going to.
Migrants are going to be moving in, for example. Huh. All this crisis and this scurrying around. Number one, again, I don't know how you can have too much of a good thing. Number two, KJP, the White House spokeswoman, made it clear that this administration is firing on all cylinders. All cylinders. There's no problem here except recalcitrant Republicans.
Surrounding the hub will be 2 of 4.
Where do we have KJP? I guess we don't
yesterday?
have KJP. All right. Well, anyway, she said they're firing on all cylinders, and the only problem that we have is that Republicans won't provide a pathway to citizenship for all the people here that are residing here illegally.
But everything's going to be okay because Mayorkas is on his way to El Paso today.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
For more on this, Tom Homan, a former acting director of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, visiting fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Tom, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So, what about this crisis I'm hearing, all this talk about? I know the Border Patrol union head said that when Title 42 ends in a week, that the cartels will have complete control of the border, but the White House is saying they have complete control of the border. Everything's fine. Illegal crossings are down 90%, and if Republicans would just provide a pathway to citizenship, we wouldn't have any problem.
You know, that should be insulting to every tax-paying American citizen that the White House out and out lies. I mean, I've worked for 6 presidents, starting with Ronald Reagan. Every administration, plays politics and spins the truth sometimes. But I've never seen an administration outwardly lie. Crossings are not down by 90%. What she's referring to is from a specific couple of countries, and the numbers aren't down at all. They simply moved them from between the ports of entry, where they cross illegally, and gave them authorization to come to a port of entry, which is illegal. They'll lose this in court. So they're just making illegal immigration legal for a couple of countries, and they say the numbers are down. It's a worse spin I can ever see. But really, what infuriates me every morning when I wake up is none of this has to be happening, right? They know how to secure the border. We did it under President Trump.
Okay, so what should they be doing? I mean, President Trump sent 5,200. Biden sending now an extra 1,500. What could he do to stop this?
Reinstitute the Remain in Mexico program tomorrow. Tomorrow. The federal courts have already set, at the highest levels, that it's a legal program. If these people want to claim asylum, they can still claim asylum. They're just going to wait in Mexico for the hearing. And what the White House doesn't tell the American people, if you go to the Immigration Court website, Executive Office Immigration Review, it clearly shows over the last decade, 9 out of 10 people who claim asylum at our border never get relief from the U.S. courts because they simply don't qualify, because they're really not escaping fear and persecution from their home government because of race, religion, political affiliation. They're coming here for a better life. I get it, but it's not political asylum. So these people claim asylum, 9 out of 10 will fail. They'll get an order of removal, and they won't leave. And the White House knows this. And even the 9 out of 10 that lose their case, if they show up in court at all, ICE can't arrest them and remove them. They can't execute the judge's order. Why? Because at the same time, we have this historic border crisis. Secretary Mayorkas has said being in the country illegally on its own is not enough for ICE to seek an arrest. So then not only they open the border, they made it impossible to deport the 90% who lose their case.
Well, and it seems to me that all this, like, oh, we're going to surge judges to adjudicate these cases and so forth. It seems to me that what Abbott and to a lesser extent DeSantis have done is what they need to keep doing, and perhaps other governors need to join in as well. Because if it's only border towns like El Paso or border towns in Arizona that feel it, it just becomes like a problem that's distant for the rest of the country. When Eric Adams and Lori Lightfoot and others are openly bitching, and there's chaos in downtown Chicago and downtown Manhattan, well, that's a whole different story. And it seems to me that the only way, you've been saying the same things for a long time of what needs to be done, what could be done to cure the problem, and there's no political will to do it, not with this White House. So absent the political will, you have to visit the consequences on the rest of the country.
Well, look, I listened to what you said earlier, and you're spot on. These sanctuary cities, they're attacking Abbott and DeSantis just because of Republican governors. They're going to attack them anyway for being, racist and inhumane. But Adams and Lori Lightfoot and the rest of these sanctuary big cities need to understand something. They're coming to your city anyway. I mean, why the hell wouldn't you go to New York when number one, they're going to give you lodging. Number two, they're going to give you food. Number three, they're going to give you money to fight your immigration case. They have a fund in New York City. I'll fund it. They're going to give you a driver's license. I mean, with all these benefits, why the hell wouldn't you go to New York City, Chicago? They're going there anyways. If they don't want them there, then end the sanctuary city policies, because sanctuary cities are only sanctuaries for criminals. Because, for example, New York, when I was the ICE director, we had 12 agents at Rikers Island every shift. We arrested hundreds of illegal aliens that were arrested by the local PD and booked into jail. They kicked ICE out of jail. ICE isn't even allowed in Rikers Island anymore. So those who commit crimes against U.S. citizens simply walk into Rikers Island, they do their time, they walk back out in the street to reoffend. So sanctuary cities is only sanctuary for criminals. So people are going to flock there anyway, so they can be protected by law enforcement.
What do you think it's going to look like when Title 42 is lifted next week?
It's going to be, look, the numbers going. I don't think the numbers are going to be as high as people say they are, because if you look at this administration, they've released more people in the U.S. than they've returned to Title 42. However, there's going to be a big increase in numbers, and here's the bottom line on that. Right now, the Border Patrol is already overwhelmed to the point that most sectors, they got 70 to 80% of agents pulled off patrol to process. 70 to 80%. So when those numbers increase after Title 42 ends, that means you're going to pull more agents off the line to process, because this administration only cares about the optics, right? If there's no overcrowding, nothing to see here, so let's process release quickly. But here's the downside. When you go to 70, 80% off the line, to get to 90% off the line, that means more fentanyl is going to get in. That means more criminals and gang members won't get in. That means more women and children be sex trafficked in. That means more known as suspected terrorists can cross that vulnerable border. They've already arrested 182 known suspected terrorists. We got 1.7 million gotaways. They've arrested people from 171 different countries. Some of those countries are sponsors of terror. If you don't think a single one of that 1.7 million didn't come here to do us harm as a terrorist, then you're ignorant to the data. This is a huge national security failure, the biggest national security failure since 9/11, and after Title 42 goes away, it's going to get worse. I am more concerned about the safety and security of this country right now than I've ever been in my 35-year law enforcement career.
Oh, wait, what happened to the phones that they were supposed to give them to track them, to make sure that they came back for their hearings, their status hearings?
Great question. They just did. They gave a multi-million-dollar award to one of the NGO friends of the administration. You know what they did with those tracking devices? They removed the GPS capability. Why the hell would you give somebody something to keep track of them? Then the contract says, but we don't want the GPS capability. They don't want to find these people.
Right. Exactly. That's why you just answered your own question. Exactly right. Another assertion that's being made by the White House is that they want to hire more Border Patrol, but Republicans won't fund it.
That is, again, another stone cold lie. The White House has offered to hire more border patrol agents, but only if they open up an amnesty plan that's going to give amnesty to 20 million people. They keep saying 11 million. We've been using 11 million for 20 damn years. We got well over 20 million. So they want a giveaway program. They want to award DACA. They want to award an amnesty, and then maybe hire more border patrol agents. But until they change their policies, what do more border patrol agents mean? Just means more processing and releasing, because they're not letting the border patrol agents do their job. This is a policy issue. This isn't a resource issue. Border Patrol's the same size as in the Trump administration. We had illegal immigration at a 45-year low. This isn't a resource issue. It's a policy issue.
And you think that the real number of people in this country illegally is closer to 40 million at present?
It's over 25 million. I don't have the number, but I've been doing this for 35 years. We've been using 11 million for at least 2 decades.
Yeah.
And look, since Joe Biden's been in the White House, we got 6 million crossings. So by the time he leaves, who knows what the hell we're going to have? Because there's no slowing down. Two and a half years into this, they haven't done one thing, a single thing to slow the flow.
He is Tom Homan, former acting director of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, visiting fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Tom, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
And thanks for doing what you're doing. We need voices out there, so thank you.
Thank you. And he